Let's open the meeting.
All right. I second that motion and we're on. So one disclaimer, this meeting may be audio or video recorded. The rest of the details can be found on the town website in terms of meeting issues and COVID and so forth. That said, I think what we should do is have Mark be our first person to present. Mark, let me just fill you in on who's who so you're not lost.
Okay.
Paul and I are the oldest members in more ways than one of the EDC. Jeff is one of our newer members and younger, and he works for Clinton Savings Bank. Matt Senni is one of the partners at Riverbridge, which you may or may not know is a concern here in town. Matt, say hello.
Hello.
He will chat with us about how Riverbridge is doing after you. And I am the leader of this pack. Mary's in the background. She's our town admin. Actually, she's the town secretary. I guess that's the proper term, working for the town administrator, helping us manage Zoom. So that said, Mark, the floor is yours. Tell us what you're about and what you're here for.
Mark Shane, I'm a real estate agent for Afonso Real Estate in Milford. I'm the commercial broker or agent for them. My client, who was supposed to join us, by the way, is interested in purchasing 339 Old Central Street. It's a slightly less than 1 acre site off of Route 62 and 495 and Old Central Street. So it's a pretty compact area. He's interested in building a service station there. I sent you guys a picture of a rendering of what he is building in another town. It will be similar. So it's a convenience store and a couple of pumps. Now, that being said, I've done a bunch of research since, and I've talked with the building inspector in town, and I've spoken with the Board of Health inspector as well. And both of them, well, the first one, the building inspector told me we needed a variance because for commercial property, you have to have minimum of 2 acres. And so we would have to submit for a variance to allow 1 acre site. Not a big deal, we can do that. You know, I don't know what the tenor of the zoning board of appeals is, whether they would approve that variance or not, but you know, for the minimum cost, we would submit to do that. But since then, I have found out a bunch of other things. One of the reasons I'm here with you guys is that the building inspector said the more boards or committees that get on board, the easier it will be to get it approved. So this is a generic, hey, this is us, we're trying to do this, and hopefully we can get your support. But in the meantime, when I spoke with with William Booking, the Board of Health inspector, one of the things he brought up was whether this service station will require public water or not. Since Berlin only has town wells, he recommended I call the EPA or DEP, sorry, in Worcester and talk with Susan Connors and find out if triggering, if this plan would trigger public water requirement. And if that's the case, then obviously you guys don't have public water. But the Dunkin' Donuts service station next door, in fact, does have public water, which they got from Hudson. So I guess they ran a pipe with approval from the town of Hudson to get them public water. And so that's my next phone call after I talk to the DEP tomorrow and see if I can get the town of Hudson to extend that pipe onto the property we're looking to build
Mark, let me interrupt and tell you that Matt has a lot of experience with public water issues. So when you're done with your presentation, this is something the two of you may want to chat about over this channel. Go ahead.
All right, great, thank you. So that's where we are. My client is a businessman in the state of Massachusetts. He has a number of different convenience stores. He has gas stations. He has liquor stores. He has a motel, restaurant, supermarket. So he's financially well established and can undertake this project without much of a problem. And so basically that's where we're at. The only thing I don't know, and I forgot to ask the Board of Health, was if there's tobacco licenses available as well. But that's down the road. You know, it's not a limiting factor here.
Have you spoken with the ZBA yet?
No, I emailed them and they emailed me back the application for the variance. And so we would submit the variance if everything else is okay, with that sketch that I sent you guys, and see what they say and go before them for the variance.
You might want to have an informal chat like you did with Bill Brookings from Health with the ZBA. Lynn Ryan's the chair, or there's other members. And
Okay.
so you know what you're in for, because showing up to the meeting becomes a huge unknown.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. I would call them ahead of time, talk to somebody in charge and see what their, like I said, I don't know what the tenor of the board is and what Berlin is willing to accept and not accept, and also in the way of new business.
Is Mr. Patel, who's online with you?
Yes.
That's great.
Yes, I am. I just got on.
Would you
Sorry.
like to turn your video on?
Okay, right here. Okay, yes, sir.
They were all.
Hey, Mark.
Gentlemen,
Mark, thank
and
you.
ladies, this is my client, Viral Patel. Viral, I just went through basically what we're trying to do, what we discussed, you and I discussed today, and what your background is in some of your holdings throughout the state.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
So is public water a condition of this project?
Say again?
Is public water required?
I don't know. I have to talk to the DEP tomorrow.
Right. One of the things to be aware of, Mark, I can't tell, is all of Dunkin' Donuts, is that station all in Berlin, or is a part of it in Hudson?
I don't know the answers to that question.
Because historically, this town has it's been reluctant to bring in public water. And so Dunkin' may be in this unusual position where they're either entirely or partially in Hudson, and therefore they were able to get water from the town of Hudson. I don't know.
Well,
It's very close to the border.
Yes, it is. And I tried bringing up the GIS map from your assessor's office or your assessor's department, and I can't get it to work on my computer for some reason. And then I tried the state GIS map, and I couldn't get that to work either. The one from your town requires Silverlight, and I downloaded Silverlight, but it doesn't seem to want to use Chrome as a mode to get on. So I don't have Explorer or Foxfire or any of that other stuff. So I'm at a loss, but I'll eventually get where I need to get and find out if it's where they are with respect to their town line.
Right.
Have you spoken with planning?
Say again?
Have you spoken with the planning board or a member of them?
Nope, haven't talked to anybody yet. We wanted to get to a point where it was even worth doing to submit the variance to start with, because I think that's the critical item here.
If I may suggest, I think you should have informal conversations with health, which you've done, GBA, which you should do, planning, and get the pulse, and buildings. Get the pulse and the rules of the road before you submit anything, because that's going to likely require a lawyer and be more cumbersome and costly. And once you've had these informal conversations, you'll know where the four corners of the project lay, and you'll have a much better sense, because you could have all the support in the world and it may not work because of some rule or regulation or zoning bylaw, or inversely have all the right data points and not a lot of support. So I think knowing that you can do this project is critical before you try to get support. That's just me speaking.
Okay, I mean, good suggestion. Like I said, I talked to the building inspector and he said, commercial 2 acres. Right away, you know, it's not 2 acres, so there's a variance required from that perspective. And I'm not, I mean, your suggestions are well taken. I will certainly get in touch with both the boards, the zoning board and the planning board, and see what I can get out of them with respect to this project before we submit any paperwork and before we go through an engineering firm, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Jeff, did you want to say something?
If this is the property I'm thinking of, there's also an issue with the grading of the land. It's fairly steep for a good chunk of the land.
Oh, yeah. Again, not being able to get on the GIS map to find out what it looks pretty flat though.
It
From
could be a
pictures.
different property. I had a customer talking about a property in that area that was commercially zoned that they were also looking at. So that was one of the concerns he had.
All right, so this is on between 62 Old Central Street and what does that look like? Gates Pond Road, I guess. It's right in the intersection of all 3 roads or surrounding that piece of property, which is directly next to the Dunkin' Donuts. And so, yeah, I'm trying to pull up the GIS where it'll tell me what the lay of the land is and how steep it is, et cetera.
Okay.
And I don't even know if there's any wetlands on the property at all either.
Can you all see this?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see if I can hone in on it.
Yeah, that's Google Maps.
Now, is it pointing at the right site? Is that where the Japanese restaurant was?
No, that's across the other side of Gates Pond. That's the building on the other side to the bottom.
That's exactly right, Peter. Or whoever brought that up.
That's Paul.
Paul.
He's the brains of the operation. I'm the good looking one.
No, I thought I was the good looking one. Okay. Yeah, it's right there. That looks pretty flat to me.
So it's this site where the red dot is, yes?
Correct.
And where are the boundaries? Something like here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, hard to tell without the GIS map, but. And see, I don't know where the town of Hudson starts.
Peter, if you back out, you back out of this slowly, you will see at some point one more back out, and I think if you're in Google Maps, do one more. The Hudson, the town boundaries will show up, but it's hard to. It's not. I don't know why. It does on mine.
Let's do this.
Go back one more time. Zoom out one more time.
I can tell you that's a different property than the one I was thinking it was.
That's not what you want to do, Peter. You want to be on the other one. You want to be satellite.
Yeah, but you want to be able to enable the town lines too.
I know, and the town lines. The only way I can figure out how to they're enabled when you zoom out, but I can't see where then as you zoom in it disappears. So I'm not sure.
But my guess is it's pretty close to that's Dunkin' Donuts site.
It is. It's very close to. It crosses. It's just right there, and I just don't know where it is. Whether
Wow.
Dunkin' Donuts is bisected by the town line.
So when I'm sorry to disturb, but when I went there, there is this lot, the lot is for sale for right now. And there is one empty lot between the Dunkin' Donuts and this lot.
Right. That's right.
So there is see if you see in the Zoom, there is a parking that in between. That's the extra, that's the lot between the Dunkin' Donuts and the lot we are talking about.
Right. Yeah, viral. I think we all know this lot's in Berlin. I think the question is, the Dunkin' Donuts was able to get public water from Hudson, and how they did that is the question. And if they are partially in Hudson, that may have been how they can do it. Historically, Berlin has not wanted to allow public water to come in from another town to a lot that is solely in Berlin.
Well, and why is that?
That's just the town for interesting reasons for 2-acre zoning, and to continue to have sort of 2-acre zoning, as opposed to, once you have public water supply, you lose a lot of the basis for why you need 2-acre zoning for leach fields and space and things like that.
But
So it's long-standing.
Matt, would you like to give us your 2 cents worth on public water? Because I know you unfortunately have a lot of painful experience.
We
And maybe some
build the
background
water.
on your bill, what
I'm
your-
a partner at Riverbridge, and I wish you good fortune with your endeavor here. Part of our property was in Marlboro, and we had hoped to be able to lock into the Marlboro resources, and the town of Marlboro was the one who actually blocked us. So we then went out and put in a $5 million water and sewer plant. It cost us about 5 years of development to make that happen. My screen went blank, so I'm not sure you're all hearing me. Are you?
We
We
are.
are.
Yes, we are. Yep.
All right. We had, I've been told that it may be, if none of that property is in Hudson, it may be a harder sell. You'd have to overcome the 2-acre zoning, and you'd have to overcome the fact that you'd be asking the town to let you piggyback on Hudson's water. That may be a hard pull. If any part of your property was in Hudson, it's probably a lay down in your favor.
Yeah, and Matt, I don't think any of the property is in Hudson.
I think it's all in Berlin to the left.
You know, I don't know what the front of the rooms would say about that. I know that they would have allowed it 10 years ago. The world's a different place now.
Yeah, and it looks like a part of the I don't know what that red line is, but it sure looks like
Yeah.
a part of.
Their red line is the Hudson Town line.
No, I know, but there's this bizarre
Yeah.
single line going off into.
Oh, to the left, yeah.
And maybe it's an easement, which is wishful thinking.
Maybe a water easement.
Yeah, right.
But it does look like, I would guess that part of Dunkin' Donuts is in Hudson.
Yeah,
It
looks like it too.
Looks like, yeah.
You can turn on the buildings, it'll show it.
Where do I do that?
Why would you want, where would you do that? It's a GIS map. It's one of the layers.
But how do I turn this on? In this image?
I don't, oh, is there, I don't see the layer icon. It's usually on the top right-hand side, but
You know, I don't think this is hometownlocator.com. I'm not thinking this is a
Yeah.
professional map. But it gives us a clue that we still don't know.
right. Well, it looks like, it doesn't look like the property we're looking at is in Hudson, so that's pretty
It's
clear.
not.
That property we're looking at is at the far end of that Central Street, Old Central Street and
Yeah.
whatever that road is, Gates Road.
Here's 339, actually, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's right. All right. You have the,
we're zoomed in as much as we're going to zoom.
not gonna, yeah, it's not
So
gonna,
Duncan might not even be.
So Duncan
Where do we
is
think Duncan is
139.
here?
139, I think.
So it's bisected like Paul guessed. Okay,
Yeah.
so back to water. So water's a big question mark. GIS, town boundaries, ZBA informal conversation with health, which you've had, informal conversation with planning board. I would have all those first. I think we might be able to coach you better than give you support or opposition to it, though we should talk about it so we can give you our input on that. Why do you, I'm wondering why a gas station makes sense, and I'm not saying it doesn't, but what's your pitch, Viral or Mark, on why it makes sense to put another gas station and convenience store in, given the ones that are already in town?
Yeah, so particular on that that area, as we know that Hudson side of the town, it's pretty much all shopping plazas and everything just went there, and so it's increasing the traffic on that particular road to make more sense for the gas stations there.
Have you done some demographic research to support this, or is this a gut feel?
Yeah, this is our initial stage where we are just starting to see if we can build a gas station. Then I can just start putting more numbers together and see if that makes definitely sense. The way, I mean, the person who has listed that property, I think they got to count traffic data and all that from DOT probably, and so by that reason, by looking at those facts, I think that's doable very good there.
Thank you. Paul, Jeff?
I don't have any other questions right now, no.
Let me just read the traffic counts. I guess this is an annual count. So Central Street, I-95 Northeast, 12,000 cars a day in 2018. And Central Street, I-95 Southwest, about the same in 2020, over 12,000 cars. I-95 Coolidge Road South, 85,000 cars in 2018. So the area is well traveled and growing, I guess. Since they built that plaza with BJ's and what's the name of that gun shop place,
Cabela's.
Bella's, yeah, and all those places. I mean, it's pretty busy up there.
It is, but there are also 3 gas stations in that area already.
I don't think Jeff is responding like that because he's opposed to it. I think he's
Right.
making a point that there's what appears to be adequate coverage between BJ's, Gas, Dunkin', Shell, the no-namer in town in Berlin.
Yeah, that was my question. I mean, build another gas station next to a gas station, unless you can undercut the gas, and have a convenience store that's better than the Dunkin' Donuts one. I agree with you, and that's what I asked my client first thing. But he's convinced that Viral, you're still convinced that it's a viable solution.
Absolutely. The reason is we're going to be independent gas, and we can compete with the other. Even we can compete with the BJ's gas. So it's a customer gets more benefit out of it, and especially particular for that location. I mean, for the location on most of the exits, they have it like a couple of gas stations, 3 gas stations, 4 gas stations. Depends on how busy the exits are, so over the course of the period, traffic is always going to increase at the any exit locations,
Will you have service there as well, a repair shop, or just?
No, we're not putting any repair shop. We usually just deal with the only convenience stores and gas stations.
You're branded or unbranded gas?
I have a few branded, and I like to stay unbranded, particular for that location.
I don't have anything further to ask. I think you should come back when you have a sense of the rules of the road, and then if you find that you can prosecute this application successfully, then try to gain the support. I think without knowing whether this is possible, and planning is arguably your best bellwether. I don't know what you think, Paul and Jeff.
Yeah, probably in the zoning bylaws and
Yeah.
good. Yeah. And the water is a big deal. I think if DEP is going to say you need public water, that's going to be very difficult. Assuming that the lot is in Berlin and is not partially in Hudson, and I don't think it's partially in Hudson.
The Shell station on the other side of 495 does not have public water and therefore doesn't have much in the way of water-related services.
That's correct.
I mean, all they'll be putting in there is a bathroom. I mean, they're not cooking, they're not doing anything
No
but that.
coffee?
Yes, we're gonna put a coffee, yes.
So that requires public water probably. I mean, you can replicate the Shell model. I have to step away for 1 second. You guys continue, forgive me.
Yeah.
I mean, I did check the zoning, and a gas station will require a special permit
Right.
besides the variance for the 2 acre. Right.
Yep.
Well, you're welcome to come back or contact us, any of us offline with questions or guidance needed or input. But I think the menu is in front of you, and you just don't know enough to know if it's
I
realistic.
have one other question.
Sure.
My client asked me to ask this question, so it's a good question. What's the availability of a TIF in town?
I would say 0. That's my opinion.
0 to none, right?
That's my gut. I'm far from an expert. What do you two think?
I don't have an idea. I think it's probably not high.
Do you guys have dual tax rate or single tax rate?
Dual tax rate.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think a TIF there may be an opportunity for one if you have a dual tax rate. Since commercial pays what? How much more than residential? 1.5 times?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a couple, 3 points difference.
That's it?
I think. I'm not, I can look it up while we're chatting, but it's not a big delta as I recall.
Okay.
Do you know, Jeff? You might know.
I don't know the commercial rate versus.
I'll look.
Milford has 1.5 times to commercial rate. And they offer tax increment financing for new businesses coming in, assuming that the new business is viable and the taxes are good. So we'll see. I mean, it's worth asking.
Just a second.
But I'm good. I appreciate you guys' time. It was very helpful, and I will do some more research and keep you in the loop.
You're welcome. Here's the answer right in front of us. So I was off.
Double. No, it's not double. It's close to though.
Yeah, that's 2 times. That's pretty good.
Yep.
I was mistaken. My apologies.
Not a problem. All right.
All right. Please feel free to stay online if you'd like to join us for the rest of the meeting. Probably will bore you, but you're welcome to stay with us and hear. Matt is next.
I'm almost set. Thanks, Peter. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mark, thank you. Viral, nice to
Thank
chat
you,
with
sir. Thank you.
Thanks
Nice
for
meeting
joining.
you both.
You're
You're
welcome.
welcome. Thank you.
All right, Matt, you're up. How's Riverbridge?
We're pleasantly surprised on several different levels. Stay vacation concept where people didn't want to travel quite as much has been well received at the adventure park, which is the part of Riverbridge people forget about. But they've done very, very well. They lost all their group sales, which is probably, I don't know, 35% of their whole business model. But the day traffic has been very, very positive. People need to do things with their families, and it's outdoors. They're no longer competing with going to the movies, and the mall isn't too exciting a venue to take your family to anymore. So that's been positive. The apartments have been a pleasant surprise. They have rented just under 49 units are rented. Now, some people will still be moving in the next 4 or 5 weeks, but they're signed leases.
How many total, Matty?
204 units.
204.
Yeah, and 49 of them have signed leases.
Okay.
The property itself, and residents sneak in and take a look, is looking quite stunning when you're on the property. And I think people, as they're driving by, are a little bit underwhelmed that it isn't quite as dominant as they thought it would be as they're going to or from 290. It actually looks a little bigger on River Road West when you're coming back from Hudson, and you just kind of come past the Reese Meadow. It looks a little big and imposing, but there aren't that many cars on that road. The residents seem very pleased to be here. They've held a very high price line. They seem like very quality tenants. We have a tremendous amount of infants in that wave of 49 signed leases. We may not even have but 1 or 2 school children out of the whole first 25%.
And listening to the webinar.
And that is kind of an interesting thing, because people always said this property will bring children. And we told people 11 years ago, if you don't make the units too big, it won't bring grade school children. And it doesn't look like it will. The leasing manager here was the leasing manager at the Point in Hudson, which is 191 units. Virtually the same size units, the same layout, and they've never had more than 5 children. If you don't build that hidden 3rd bedroom as a den, you just don't get the school children. Now, 11 years ago, when we first considered coming here, school children was a negative. Today, I think they wouldn't mind having a few school children. Things change in a decade's time, but depending on which side of the fence you sit on that, we're not going to bring very many school children to the community, which in school children, of course, is a big driver of the tax rate. The gas station is still probably off by 40% for August. The cafe is off by 50%. The liquor store is off by 25%. Both of those numbers are very reflective of the office parks. They still haven't come back. That's a big part of our business model, particularly at lunchtime. So we're going to have to deal with getting people locally a little more invested in making us their liquor store or their place for take-home pizza and such, as I don't think those office parks are going to be in that great. I don't think they're coming back till December at the earliest. And of course, we don't know what the flu will add to the virus as we are today. The hotel stayed open through the whole virus. It stays at 30%. They're getting a good price per night. The clients that are there are very happy. They're generally there for 3 or 4 days at a time, regardless of what industry they're from. People still need to get out here for periods of time. So I think I've hit all our different business models out here. We still have the 4 acres in front where the old Reese package store was, and we don't know what to do with it. It's zoned commercial, and that's going to be a hard sell for the next 3 or 4 years, or we don't know for how long. I'll remind you all, the Pure Hockey building sat empty for 8 years. The Old Navy and the Sports Authority buildings right off of 290, although they're technically in Marlboro, they've now been empty for the better part of 5 years. So bringing that last piece of commercial and the restaurants to Riverbridge is going to be a big challenge. And I did forget the daycare center. They did reopen in some point in July. I think he's back at about 40 of what he did last August. But he is hopeful that by the time, in another couple of weeks, he could be back up at 70 to 80% of where he was last September. So that's kind of where we're at. People seem to be pleased that with everything going on around here. We did get the mediums better rated and maintained. I don't know if you all have an opportunity to drive down River Road West that goes through our properties. But we bit the bullet and made them very sharp and clean looking. It is the first thing you see is technically you're entering the community of Berlin. So that'd been kind of on our to-do list, and because of it just was expensive, we held off doing it, but we finally bit the bullet and did it last month.
Yep. Matt, just so I got this right, it is 204, not 104 apartments.
204 apartments.
Yep. Okay, good.
49 of them are under signed lease.
Yep.
And I think probably about 35 units are being lived in every night.
Okay. Yep.
Are the units performing, meaning are the tenants paying? Given there's an eviction moratorium, I would think
Some tenants came
there's
in
some
with
outside.
1 free month. Some tenants came in with 2 free months. And that's kind of commonplace in the industry. But I got the second month because of COVID to make the numbers work. But if you look at they're getting well over $2,000 a unit. I think the largest units are actually 29 and change per month, which is a good.
Wow. That's good for Metro
monthly.
West.
These aren't $1,500 a month apartments. These are well-built, well-maintained, well-run community that should bring a quality clientele and a vitality to the community that should be appreciated by the other residents in the town.
Any emergency services?
Well, there's a lot of young families. We had a lot of baby strollers.
Well, they'll become school-age kids sooner or later.
Well, no. But the thing is, no, they'll get pregnant again and they'll move out. They'll either move to a bigger, they'll rent a home, they'll buy a home. That's what happens in the market. The average tenant still only stays about 16 months. Young people, if you get a retired couple, you might hang on to them for 7 or 8 years. But generally young couples, they're moving from point A to point B as they grow their family and their job descriptions change. Their income increases, hopefully. Now, will some of those people buy homes in this community? Some will. Some will like it here so much that if they can afford it, they will buy here.
And you said Boundless is doing well in net, given the groups are missing?
Yes, the day-to-day sales have been very, very positive. I mean, sometimes, they're north of 200 people some days. Every once in a while, they're well north of 200 people. They were supposed to close down Monday through Thursday, Labor Day, and now they're staying open an extra couple of weeks because the school systems are in flux. They're starting later. Some of them are doing homeschool, and they still need things to do with the kids because you still can't take them to the malls, and you still can't take them to the movies and other things. So this outdoor adventure, for people, in this town and within 25 miles of here is still a great thing to do with the family, and probably will be through September. I believe around September 17th, they will go to Friday, Saturday, and Sundays.
How late in the season do they stay open on the weekends?
November 1st.
November.
Well, it's driven by weather, but November 1st.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you. Any other Solomonic words or?
We're talking with different people about the last 4 acres, but at this point, I wouldn't be at liberty to share. But we have ideas, and we're working through some different things of what to do with this 3.5 acres. Chris and I have brought in good people to Riverbridge. We want to figure out a way to take care of these this last piece of acreage, and really have Riverbridge all built out and just be managing it in the future. I don't know whether that'll happen. It takes two parties to put together a deal, and it's tricky.
And Matt, you do still have that, I guess I'd call it a restaurant lot in front of the hotel too, right?
Absolutely. And that probably at some point will get to be fast casual. The problem is restaurant industry isn't very good right now.
Right.
20% of the restaurants have gone out of business, which means, building from the ground up fast casual is a little bit expensive. They do well in malls where the structure's already in place, the numbers work well. Building fast casual from the ground up is a little bit of a hard sell.
Right.
Well, super, thank you. Jeff, anything you
When
want?
you have people coming in looking for opportunities, send them down to Riverbridge.
Sure.
I did have a question about the apartments. What are the 40B qualifications? What numbers must someone come in at to be qualified for a 40B unit?
80% of the mean income in the area, a certain percentage of the units, and 50% of the mean income for the remaining units. I believe most of the affordable units, I shouldn't say that. I think the lottery worked fairly well. I think as units come available, as they finish up these last three buildings, I do think they have a program in place. I defer to Eloise when people kind of ask me that question, because the town kind of likes touching it a little bit. And I had one person I gave misinformation to 2 years ago, and I felt horrible about it. So I try not to be too, I try to push that down the road a little bit and not be too committal. But
So where does a
rent?
prospective tenant go? Eloise or your office?
Oh, no, they go over here, and they'll also tell them. But I mean, if they didn't want to call the complex themselves, I would send them to Eloise rather than try and just give an answer off the top of my head. No, but people go into the clubhouse every day. Have any of you ever been to visit the clubhouse?
No.
I'm not. But
When
I've
you
looked
have
at
an extra
videos.
10 minutes one day, or any of you, with an extra 10 or 15 minutes, I'm usually here Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday. It would be my pleasure to walk you through the clubhouse or walk you around the property a little bit. I think it's kind of impressive, and the people that are there seem to be very pleased. But I always tell different town officials, come on down. It's my pleasure to kind of walk you around the units, even if you have no interest in renting for yourself or anybody you know. We want people to have the excuse to touch it, and walking around the property with me is a good way to touch it.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks, Matt.
All
Stay
right,
with
guys.
us.
I am gonna check out. I do have some. It's my night at the cafe, and I do have some other responsibilities around here. But as I said, I try to make myself available to these meetings. And if we get some exciting things going on over here, I may be reaching out to you to get your ideas.
We're happy to help if we can.
All right, guys. You guys have a great evening.
Thanks very much, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
I think I'm leaving the meeting.
All right, so long.
He is.
All right. So I've been trying to reach Paul Johnson by text and then by phone, and no response. So I don't know why he's a no-show, but oh well. Moving along to the minutes, I did not get to them, so we'll have to push them off again. My
Okay.
apologies. Paul, you're on.
I have a very short update. I have no news from Jed. I have reached out to him twice. Once by text, once by email, once by voicemail, once by email. He didn't get back to me over the last 4 days or so, 5 days. So I don't have anything to report from him on the liquor store or Highland Commons. I do know that if you guys all saw the Clinton item last Friday, that Fit Factory is opening this September, supposedly. And my wife actually stopped by there today, and they said they expect their final inspection from the building inspector sometime this week, and they plan to open mid-September. And she said, we heard that last September, but you know, they seem to be much further along, and so potentially they're going to open in a couple, 3 weeks.
Well,
That would be my update.
okay, thank you. So Jason, as I mentioned earlier, was unable to attend. He'll do his thing. Jeff, I sort of imposed upon you this CARES Act benefits applicable to our constituents. Anything to share?
Not too much in the way of updates. The PPP closed as of August 8th, unless they decide to do another round. So now they're starting to work on the forgiveness of the loans, which is all through SBA. So lenders are basically guiding their customers as to how to meet the SBA requirements, but it's not up to the lenders, it's up to SBA. They still have the EIDL loans available through SBA. Those are, again, I don't have a ton of information on those because those are through SBA directly, not through the lender. And then the one other one I saw recently was if you already are set up with an SBA lender, they have an express bridge loan to help carry you for up to $25,000 to help carry you over until you can be approved for an EIDL loan.
What's the limitation on EIDL? Or maybe I should say the qualifications.
It's pretty generic listing on the site. So it's small business owners and qualified agricultural businesses of less than 500 employees.
Is it
But
forgivable?
No, these are loans, but they're low interest loans. So they are not forgivable, but they are low interest.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. So I don't have much to report myself, but Mo's, the location, Tarvis, am I pronouncing it properly? Do you know the site I'm referring to?
No.
It is next to, Jeff, do you know? It's next to the pet place.
Oh,
The
next to
rundown-
Smart or whatever it is. This is in, where's this?
Nature's
Well, I'm
Best
not-
Farm stand there.
It's a rundown, very rundown property on 62. Let me-
I believe
Oh,
that's-
I know where that is.
It's known
Opposite
as
the Shell
Mo's.
Station, on the other side of Shell Station.
That's right.
yeah.
Anyway, I was, pardon me?
Well, you're gonna fill us in, so I'm interested. What's going on?
So I understand it's in foreclosure, and it was just mentioned to me offline. And then the other piece is, and I haven't confirmed it, the other piece is, if it's not in foreclosure or it remains in the same hands for a while, do we as an economic development committee care about the way it looks?
I think the entire town cares about how it looks. Hopefully it forecloses and it gets fixed by somebody.
But if it doesn't, is there something that we, the EDC, should be doing?
I don't think that's us. I think that's the building inspector. I don't know who that is, Peter, but I would agree. I've heard third and fifth hand stories about the welcoming that people got who tried to change how it looks. I don't think I would want to get engaged in trying to change those looks, and I don't think it's our responsibility. I think it's planning board. I think it's select board. I think it's all sorts, board of health. I mean, there seems to be a lot of other things going on there before it gets to us.
Okay.
That'd be my view, but you're certainly more than welcome to go.
Well, I'm
visit.
not going to pursue it, in part because I'm busy, but more importantly because I want the support of all three of us to. I mean, it could be something as simple as we think something should be done about it, and I'm not promoting that, but that's something that we could do. We could send a message to the select board if we feel that's an economic impact.
I don't think so.
Jeff?
while it would be wonderful to have it look nicer, I don't feel it's detracting from that one spot as you go by.
Okay.
I think most people probably don't even notice it or think it's not currently open, which is more an impact on the business than it is on businesses around it.
Fair enough. All
Yeah,
set.
and actually, I would say, Peter, it looks better now than it did 6 months ago when it was open. I mean, the stacks of logs are gone. The cows are no longer over on the left-hand side of the property. I mean, it looks less messy, if you want to put it, if you want to, there's a way to put it right now.
Understood. Okay. All right, let me give you a Cabela's update. I spoke to Rich Gilbert, who is no longer
He's
the
no longer there though, right?
Yep, but he's sort of the regional, I'm not sure what his title is, but he sort of acts as a regional something. So I had a lengthy conversation with him. He gets about 10 I'm just reading you some notes that some are relevant, some are not. But he gets about 10 customer complaints, emails a day about the way people are wearing or not wearing masks. And it's very aggravating and very time consuming. Their ammo, fishing rods, and gun sales are up 600% system-wide.
System-wide.
Yep. You'll hear some Berlin stuff as well. They bought and sold 60,000 fishing rods system-wide in a week.
Right.
The company as a whole is doing well. Last Saturday, they were 200% over the previous last year's Saturday in Berlin.
That's
one of their top stores.
That's last Saturday. Okay, that's in Berlin.
Yeah. The Berlin's one of their top stores. The Maine store is not doing as well because Maine has quarantine requirements that are more strict than some of the other states, and they don't get the Canadian business because the border is closed for this kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Their biggest problem is staffing, which they are running at a minimum because of both budgetary reasons as well as ability to hire. Rich is now living in Maine. Their sales are not yet positive in Berlin. Positive meaning ahead of last year. But in the next few weeks, they will be ahead of last year.
You're talking about overall annual sales, presumably.
Well, yeah, I guess you'd say year to date.
Yeah, year to date. Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
They're
So
not.
he's expecting to catch up.
In the next few weeks, they'll be ahead of last year. They've been profitable. I'm not sure if it's the entire year to date, but they've been profitable year to date. They're, quote, making a ton of money. I think the Berlin store is up 1,000%, which seems impossible. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, that seems, yeah, right.
Payroll is a third of what it was last year. And that was pretty much it. On the whole, the store is doing very, very well. The stores in general are doing very, very well. In some categories, like I mentioned, they can't keep up with. And they would sell more fishing rods and more ammo if they could get their hands on more.
Yep.
I sent an invitation to Sean Humphreys, the new previous assistant manager, current manager, but he was unable to join us because I had invited him too late. So that's it for Cabela's.
Right.
I tried to, go ahead.
I was also going to say, I know we talked to the guys at EMS. I don't know how Cabela's is doing, but they can't find a kayak. I mean, they get daily calls for kayaks, and there's no kayaks to be found to be able to be sold. So I know Cabela's had some kayaks laying around outside, so they may not have quite the same issue, but EMS has said they just have nothing.
It's funny that you mentioned that, but I was at EMS a couple weeks ago trying to get flip-flops, and they had 6 pairs. They're
Yeah.
virtually sold out. And I said, how's the store doing in general? He goes, they're doing great, especially this store. And I forget why he said this store, but he said they're doing great because outdoor activity's up.
Yep, outdoor activity's up, and there aren't a lot of EMS stores. I mean, they closed so many down. This is one of the weird ones that stayed open. I think they only have, they have no more than a handful of stores in Massachusetts. I'm not even sure they have a handful. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I got the same message, Paul.
Yeah.
So that's it for that. I was unable to reach Chris Bastian. He's on vacation. Riverbridge, of course, we just heard directly from the horse's mouth. The link in the agenda is self-explanatory unless there's something to discuss. I have nothing further on that. And have you heard of Muddy Paws? The link.
Have what?
Muddy Paws on South Street.
No.
It's a new farm.
Oh yes, yeah. I don't do Facebook though, but I know Money Paws. Yeah, they do hydroponic, right?
That's right. So you can click on that link without being a member and view the information on it, Paul.
Yep.
Jeff, did you click on it by chance?
I did not know. I haven't gotten a chance to look.
Anyway, I invited him by email and by phone voicemail and have not heard a response to join us. That's it. Our meeting, content-wise, is done unless one of you have something to say besides picking another date.
No, the only other thing I'll add, Peter, is I was in touch with Jason. He and I have done some back and forth regarding the signs. So
Wonderful.
I gave him some information on zoning. It looks like we should be all set. I mean, the signs should meet the size requirements. The weirdest thing that I saw in our zoning bylaws, if I read it correctly, was our signs can't have more than 3 colors, which I guess if you include black and white, doesn't leave you lots of options. But if black and white don't count as colors, then what Jason had, and I think he showed us last time as his mock-up, we'd be totally fine. And I expect you can get a variance. Because I started driving by different places and saying, okay, how many signs literally have only 3, black, white, and 1 other color? There aren't a lot. Most of them have more than that. So, but a whole bunch of them are just 3 colors. In fact, black, white, and either red or green or blue or something. So
I think the big issue with that would be if you were getting sponsors, whether they would be able to get their logo in color.
Good point.
Yep. And it would be important that we do that. I mean, even the mock-up that Jason had 5 colors. And so it shouldn't be an issue. But in any case, you're exactly right, Jeff. I mean, that's one reason we'd have to talk to somebody and make sure that's not an issue.
Do you know factually, Paul, that the town like we are a town body are bound by those bylaws?
I don't know. I assume that bylaws apply to all of us.
Right.
I don't know that. I mean, there's zoning bylaws, so I assume we would have to abide by them.
So who's the decision maker? The building inspector?
I'd probably start with planning board. I mean, they're sort of, or the ZBA or somebody.
Yeah, I think planning is a better idea.
Yeah.
Than mine. Yeah, I think when the time comes, we have an informal conversation with someone.
Yep.
Good. Thank you for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So next meeting wise, I'm kind of inclined to go with 8 weeks. I don't know what you guys are thinking. It's not like we have people beating our doors down. But
I'm fine with that.
I'm open to you two.
That's fine with me.
Yep, I'm good with that too. I mean, if we have the need to do it more often, we can do it more often. I mean, I'm disappointed that Jed didn't call back. I left him a pretty long voicemail and just, get the same kind of feedback that we got from Matt. And I don't know, he hasn't been responding.
Should I call the attorney for the liquor folks?
I don't know that you certainly can, Peter. You had that relationship, but I don't know that it's worth it. I mean, I don't see anything going on up there. And based on what we heard, and Jed hasn't gotten back to me, I specifically asked about the liquor store. And he didn't have anything. He didn't get back to me.
All right.
You'd think they'd be trying to push through with liquor sales through the roof, but
right.
Yeah, you would think so.
Good point. Well, maybe I'll give a call. Okay. I mean, we can always have a meeting in between if we don't, if we need something sooner. But it would be nice to get the sign thing going and
Yep.
the website updated, the town website updated. So when you speak to Jason, please tell him if there's something I can do to help, to reach out to me.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you
Well,
have
the
a
sign
fence?
thing, he has a bid and all that stuff. We saw that. He was going to formalize that. He's got the zoning stuff now, so we should be all set.
Okay, good.
So when you say 8 weeks, what are we talking? Like November 4th, the day after Election Day?
Well, it could be 6 weeks, it can be 8 weeks. I mean, I'm not going anywhere particularly, so. November 4th is fine. What's good for you, Jeff? I know you had a little bit of family stuff you have to think twice about. What day of the week is better for you, Jeff?
So assuming soccer actually happens like it's supposed to, Wednesday would be probably best because practices are Tuesdays and Thursdays.
It's fine with me. Wednesday.
So
the
6
4th.
o'clock, yeah, 6 o'clock, November 4th?
Yeah. 6 o'clock works well for me. Good. Anything else, guys?
I don't have anything else.
What's our internal input to each other about the presentation for the gas station? It's just premature is my reaction.
Yeah, and I think the really big deal is the water. But I don't, like you made a great point, Peter. The Shell station opposite Tavares, whatever they are, Moe's, they don't have public water. They have and I don't even know if they have 2 acres. I mean, I guess they might. I don't know. So
But they may be in before that bylaw was in place.
maybe, yeah, maybe. But you just have, again, the issue of public water versus if you've got a single bathroom, I just don't know. I mean,
I can't imagine we need another gas station in the region anyway, or a convenience store.
Yep.
Strikes me as resource wasteful.
Especially on that side. If it was the other side of town, it would actually make more sense. But
Right.
But there's a series, as you drive up and down 62, there's a series of somethings.
Yes, that's right.
So,
We're going to have a second pot store, right?
yes. That's
Right
right.
right opposite the entrance to Lowe's.
Yeah. They did a pretty
there's
job
that one,
putting
and then
that
there's
together.
the one that had the presentation last time over by
That's
the
the
mall.
third one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the third one. Yeah.
Is the one across from Lowe's in Berlin? I don't think so.
No,
It's in Hudson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to close the meeting.
I will second that.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.